Dutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Nityananda Vadutendur Vasudha Prana Vallabha Janava Jivita Patihi Krishna Prema Prada Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Shriman Sachinandana Purvajaha Bhavonmatta Jagatrata Rakta Gaura Kalevaraha. Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Hrishikesha Indriyatmane Namah Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nivratatmane Swarga Pavargadvaraya Nityam Suchi Sade Namah Namah Hiranyaviryaya Chaturhotraya Tantave. Hare Krishna. So, in the previous session, we introduced the third chapter, the subject matter of the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. We concluded the second chapter 2 weeks prior. And the second chapter was somewhat of an unsystematic presentation of the entire contents of the Bhagavad Gita. Different areas of the Bhagavad Gita were sampled in one sense by Krishna. But the third chapter onwards, the delineation is very focused. So the third chapter is a complete focus on the path of Karma Yoga. Action. Karma essentially means action, and action in Krishna consciousness, or action while keeping Krishna in the center, is the subject matter of the third chapter. To quickly recap, until such time one is above the modes of nature, until such time one has been purified of coming in touch with the material modes of nature. So you have tamas, rajas, sattva. Until such time one is above tamas, rajas and sattva and has reached the point of Shuddha Sattva, one has to ensure that the actions in this world are conducive towards helping him ascend sattva. Do you realize what I'm trying to say here? A conditioned living being, any soul which is present on this planet, whoever takes birth on this planet, takes birth, or especially it has been arranged in such a manner that if he were to follow the rules and regulations, he would be able to make progress slowly, steadily, passing through the different varnas and ashramas, passing through the different layers of consciousness, starting from tamas all the way up to sattva, and then finally position himself in a point where he would be able to begin devotional service. So this is steady progress over several lifetimes. One is very tamasic while he is coming out from the animal platform. So someone is born in an animal body. From an animal body he is coming on and taking on a human form for the first time. He is taking on a human form for the first time, or she is taking on a human form for the first time. There is a tremendous amount of animal tendencies. These animal tendencies are typically body consciousness. The animal does not recognize the higher aspects of truth. The animal recognizes the fact that it has a body. The animal is conscious of the fact that the body has to be fed, it has to sleep, it has to mate, it has to defend if there's danger, or be safe at all times. The animal recognizes the needs of the body and focuses on the body. So a human being who has just come from a previous animal body into a human body has a focus on the body and nothing else. So they are focused on eating, sleeping, mating and defending. This is tamas. There is an increased level of focus on the body. What should the body do? How can I take care of the body in different ways? There's a tremendous amount of focus on the body. There's enjoyment from the body, sense gratification. Right? That is animal consciousness. And animal consciousness is very prominent when there is no recognition of the presence of the soul, there's no recognition of a higher goal, but there's 100% focus on being able to gratify the senses and take care of the needs of the body. Now, this particular soul which is in such a body experiences different aspects of this body, and then purely by frustration it purifies itself. Right? There is a certain amount of frustration which is felt because the soul which is trying to seek happiness only through matter, which is this body, has to feel frustration at some point. That frustration is the basic purification that prompts one to ask questions. Because the material facilities and the pursuit of pleasure of the body, pleasure of the mind is thwarted by material nature. It is disappointing, it is frustrating. The frustration leads to deeper questions. And this happens over several lifetimes of pursuit. It need not happen the first time over. So, the system of Vedas is such that karmakanda, or fruitive activity, of performing a certain activity with a fruit in mind. Right? So, for example, someone wants to beget children. So, they perform a certain kind of yajna. So, there is a fruitive desire that I am acting, keeping Krishna in the center, but the result is for me to ultimately enjoy. I am going to enjoy, but I'll keep Krishna in the center. This is fruitive activity, karma kanda, right? So there are almost 32 samskaras which are prescribed in the Grihastha ashrama, starting from the time of marriage, even before marriage, purification, and then in marriage, and then you have different kinds of samskaras. You know, you have the Garbha Adana samskara. The act of having sex is a samskara within the institution of marriage. And there is a certain ritual. There are certain mantras which are being said before the living being can even engage in that activity of mating. Right. So different procedures and different payogas and different pujas and different kinds of karmakandic rituals are prescribed at different stages of life for the living entity to be purified, and these are the rules of the varnashrama. The idea is that a soul has come on this planet and the soul doesn't belong here. The soul simply does not belong here. It's in an alien situation. This is incompatible, because if it were to be compatible, we will all be 100% happy. Is it not? The fact that we are getting frustrated, the fact that we are experiencing pain, the fact that we are experiencing unusual situations is because this is incompatible. Right? So a system has been set up that you're entering into this planet and you have to leave this planet. How do you leave this planet? The only way you leave this planet is by tuning your frequency to the place where you're going. Okay? So if there is tremendous amount of tamas, then we can go to the lower planetary systems where the body consciousness is even higher than it is on this planet. If it is somewhat very 100% somewhat passionate, it is not so much tamas, then one goes to the heavenly planets. If there is goodness, they go to the heavenly planets. There are higher planets in the heavenly system. You can go all the way up to Satyaloka based on consciousness. How does this happen? It is purely a situation where you have a certain kind of consciousness, it qualifies you for a certain planet. Simple. So if there is a very high level of goodness, with very little amount of any kind of influence of ignorance and passion, because as long as you are in the material sky, unless you are a pure devotee, there would be a mixture of consciousness. Such a person gets elevated to the Satyaloka planet. Siddha Loka, Jnana Loka. There are different kinds of lokas. They get elevated to those planets based on consciousness. So what does this tell us? It tells us that there is a certain system which is being given, and that system and the rituals associated with that system operate on our consciousness, and the consciousness, as it gets upgraded, we get qualified to go to higher places. That consciousness allows us an entry into higher planetary systems. Okay? So this is precisely the system. Now, in Krishna consciousness, what is our aspiration? What is our aspiration? Where do we plan to go? We plan to go beyond the material sky. We plan to enter into the spiritual sky, and we want to reach the highest spiritual planet. So what is it which is required in this area for us to be able to go there? You need to have a consciousness which matches the system in that particular planet. It's simple logic. The entry is, if you want to go to Goloka, you should have Goloka consciousness. You need to have Vaikuntha consciousness to go to Vaikuntha. Simple. There's a certain consciousness which is demanded. Now, how do you attain such consciousness while still being in a conditioned body? A body which is drawing our attention at all times, where we are focused on the needs of the body at all times. There's a complete focus on the needs of the body at all times. We are making certain arrangements to fulfill our desires. How can we upgrade our consciousness to reach the highest planet while also satisfying our senses? How is it possible? Isn't that a specific challenge? It's a very big challenge for devotees. The devotees of the Lord have chosen the path of returning back to Godhead, and in returning back to Godhead, they yet have to live a life on this planet. They have to eat, sleep, depending on their social circumstances, mate, defend. How do you eat, sleep, mate, defend while being on this planet without having your consciousness being affected by such activity? Do you realize the problem? Your consciousness needs to constantly be upgraded. It has to reach the Goloka consciousness. But yet we are in bodies and we have to act. And since we act, the consciousness can again come down because we are experiencing body consciousness. Do you see where the challenge is coming from? And this is a lifelong process of 40 years, 35 years of sadhana. How do you maintain 35 years of sadhana? How do you make progress year after year while the priorities of the body could again bring you down to body consciousness? What kind of an arrangement could you make which would allow you to make progress? That is the subject matter of the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, specifically. The 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita specifically deals with Karma Yoga. Action on this planet, action which should not bind us, action which should allow us conducively to move forward and experience elevation year after year, action which should not become an incarceration for us, even though we think it's necessary. None of the arrangements which are being made by us proactively are being made by Krishna, essentially. In one sense, you can say everything is Sarvakarana Karanam, Krishna. Krishna is Sarvakarana Karanam. But at the other time, we also have to understand that he has given us free will. Krishna did not ask us to choose a specific ashrama. He did not tell us to get married. Krishna did not tell us choose this particular job. Krishna did not make the choice of us begetting children. Krishna did not make any one of those choices of what kind of a house we live in, how much debt we have, how free we are from debt, how much wealth we have, and what is our nature. None of this is being dictated by the Lord. These are our choices. And these choices may not give us pleasure. We may claim that we are acting without our discretion. Prabhu, this is not my decision. I did not even feel like doing this. But yet I am doing this. But I have to tell you, even if you don't like doing this, you arrange for it. You desired to do this, if not now, in some other lifetime. You have made arrangements for you to be acting in the manner you are acting now. These are your arrangements, 100%. 100% these are your arrangements. Now you have this complexity where we are making arrangements and then we are trying to fit Krishna into that. And trying to say that I am going to make arrangements for eating, sleeping, mating, defending. And after making all these arrangements, those arrangements should be compatible to rise my consciousness so that I can become Goloka conscious at the end of my sadhana. How is this? Do you understand what we are doing? We are creating the complexities, and after creating the complexities, we want to fit Krishna into those complexities. We are saying, this is my life, this is how I'm going to eat, sleep, mate, defend. Now in this Krishna, you fit in. You fit in. Somehow or the other you have to fit in, and I, after fitting you in any manner I want, still have to make progress and I have to attain the goal of life. This is our arrangement. Not very conducive. This is a challenge for most devotees. This is not a simple matter. That's the reason why I want to caution you. It's not a simple matter. Most devotees struggle with their own arrangements. And most of the time the arrangements are such that Krishna cannot be in the center. Constantly the arrangements which they have made are artificially supported to such an extent that Krishna has to move away, and that particular arrangement will come to the center. Artificially, we have created standards of living where maintaining that standard of living more than once, more than 10 times would overwhelm our focus. Krishna cannot remain in the center. Krishna has to move, and that big problem because of money will come right in the center. Big problem because of a job will come in the center. Big problem because of relationships will come in the center. Can you understand what this is? So those circumstances become even bigger than Krishna. Krishna has to move, he has to give way, he goes to the periphery, our problems come to the center, they become the deity. Deity worship starts with full focus. It's a fact. The job becomes bigger than Krishna. The relationship becomes bigger than Krishna. The needs of the body become bigger than Krishna. Can you imagine the challenge? Can you imagine how far we are from being able to accomplish what is required of? What we are required of at all times is being able to keep Krishna in the center and then act according to Krishna in the center and then make progress, because those actions would be purified. Did we get married with the mood of wanting to serve the divine couple? Did we? No. Did we seek a job? Did we seek a profession? Did we seek education wanting to keep the divine couple in the center? No. Did we come to America wanting to keep the divine couple in the center? No. So what are we trying to do here? We are trying to fit them into the center after we make choices. And that is a specific challenge. This has to be understood. This has to be understood. I'm making statements that are redundant purely because this is not understood. People don't understand that this is the complexity in following Krishna consciousness. This is the complexity in following Krishna's teachings. Arjuna was perplexed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And what was he perplexed about? His different identities. His identity of being a grandson, his identity of being a disciple, his identity of being a nephew, his identity of being a cousin. He was bewildered, and he simply did not know which one of these identities should be taking center stage. And Krishna was there saying, Arjun, I am supposed to be center stage. None of these identities of yours should take center stage. I am supposed to be center stage, Arjun. This identity of yours in relationship with me is to be center stage. This was a statement which Krishna was making. So what did he say? He said, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayasmi ma suchaha. He says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. He says, every other dharma, the chala dharma, upadharma, the secondary, tertiary duties, secondary, tertiary identities that you have in your mind are secondary, are tertiary. They are subordinate to being my servant. Mamekam sharanam vraja. Sarva dharman parityajya. Do not ever think that they can be a priority if I am in the center. Every action of yours should be seen through the prism and the lens of keeping Krishna in the center. If you do that, you would be able to use that specific action towards elevation. If we cannot do that, that action will bind us. Instead of taking us to the higher and higher levels, it would bring us down. So that is the subject matter of the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. How do you constantly struggle to keep Krishna in the center? Because this is karma yoga. Fruitive desires. We all got married, we have a job, we have a certain career, we came to America with desires to enjoy the fruits of our action. So how do you transform the fruits of such action, offer it to the lotus feet of the Lord, and keep Krishna in the center at all times, and not allow any one of our other identities to take over to such an extent that Krishna has to move, and that identity comes to the center, and that identity becomes a deity. This is how critical it is. Because imagine, anything which is going to be in the center is going to bring focus. And that focus is going to determine consciousness. Right? If we focus on the identities that are born out of this body, we have body consciousness. And body consciousness is going to be debilitating. None of our problems are bigger than us. None of our problems are bigger than us. I'm talking about the self. None of the problems are bigger than us. But we don't want to ever say that there is a problem which is so big that it is even bigger than anything I can ever imagine. It can overtake me, it can overwhelm me, and I can be bewildered. No. That's impossible. How can something temporary overwhelm a permanent situation? That's bewilderment. Okay? So now let's just look into the aspects of the 3rd chapter and try and see what the messages are. We will again try and come around the central theme. The central theme is keeping Krishna in the center. That is actually the principle of varnashrama. I belong to a certain varna. In other words, I execute a certain profession. I belong to a certain ashrama. In other words, I have chosen a certain social order. Based on all of this, I keep Krishna in the center and execute the duties within those orders. That would allow me to get purified and make progress without binding me. What is the stage here? Now let us just go a little deeper into understanding the aspects of Krishna consciousness and how this ties in with definition given by our primary acharyas. Srila Rupa Goswami defined pure devotional service in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and he says, Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavratam. Right? Anya bilashita shunyam. Anya abhilashita shunyam. Shunyam is zero. Anya abhilashita shunyam. Sarva dharman parityajya. Jnana karmadi anavratam. Jnana karmadi anavratam. Knowledge, the pursuit of knowledge for the sake of knowledge, or even perceiving transcendental knowledge as the limit. Anavratam. Karma, give up fruitive desires, give up fruitive action. Jnana karmadi anavratam. Anya bilashita shunyam jnana karmadi anavratam. These are the definitions. Sarva dharman parityaje mamekam sharanam vraja. Right. There's no difference between the two statements. What does that mean? It essentially means is that the karma kanda section, or our activities that we perform in ashramas and in varna, professions and in the garastha-ashrama, the activities that we perform can also be categorized, if it is not conducive to Krishna consciousness, if it cannot be aligned to Krishna, and if it is not going to allow us to take a decision which is going to bring us closer to Krishna, these are called anarthas. Do you realize what is anartha? Anartha means that which has no meaning. That which has no meaning in life. that which has no meaning in life. So we start devotional service with the first step. And what is the first step? Ado Shraddha. Shraddha is the first step. Ado Shraddha. A little faith. Ado Shraddha. A little faith. Tata Sadhu Sango. Then you have association with the devotees, and you have association with the devotees whose faith is much higher than us. How can faith be higher? What allows someone's faith to be higher? Experiences. The experiences of that devotee of the Lord, the experiences of that devotee of his own identity are much better, as a result of which his faith is much higher. Faith increases with experiences. Right? The more and more we experience spiritual life, the greater and greater would be our faith. So the experiences also are different. They are in different degrees. Someone who is just beginning would have a certain kind of experience of what spirituality is. Someone who is completely matured in his spiritual life would have a completely different experience. It will be quite profound. That experience would be real. For him, there is no such thing as faith. Faith is required because you don't know what is beyond. For a person who has matured in Krishna consciousness, he can see Krishna. He does not require faith in Krishna consciousness. Do you realize what that means? Shraddha also has different levels. At the highest level, there is no question of Shraddha because you are seeing the Supreme Lord. I do not need faith to see you, right? To believe that you are sitting in front of me. I can see you, pratyaksha. So my experiences are going to be done by the senses, the spiritual senses. They're going to be profound. I do not have to worry about faith because I have experiences, right? So at a higher level, you don't really need to worry about faith. So faith also matters, it changes. So you need to be able to have association of devotees who have higher experiences. Because their experiences give them greater faith, and that faith would help us move forward. They speak with conviction because they have seen the truth. We move forward based on that. That's the reason why senior association is very important in Krishna consciousness. Association means devotees senior to us. Very important. Of course, there are different categories of devotees, but devotees who are senior to us, very important, because they have the ability to guide us. Now, after Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sango, you engage in Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya means to act, and you engage in Bhajan. So you are engaging in Bhajan, which is the specific activity which would help you move forward and increase your experiences and increase your faith. Then, while engaging in Bhajana Kriya, we are engaging in the process of Anartha Nivritti. And what is Anartha Nivritti? That which is to be given up. Those desires which have no meaning in Krishna consciousness, those desires that have to be kicked away, those desires have to be given up. Now, the biggest challenge a devotee faces is in being able to give up such desires. In being able to give up such desires and to be able to keep Krishna in the center while such desires are still amounting. How do you give up desires? Can we give up desires altogether? Yes or no? No. We transform our desires. We keep Krishna in the center. We transform our desires and we move forward. We move forward. So Anartha Nivritti is the main challenge. Anartha Nivritti occurs in Karma Yoga. Specifically because we engage in activity that is not directly related to Krishna, but we have to transform such activity and dovetail them in Krishna's service. We have to constantly keep Krishna in the center while engaging in the ashrama, while engaging in grahasthashrama, while engaging in profession, varna, we have to keep Krishna in the center. Very easy to get absorbed in different kind of unwanted aspirations, unwanted meaningless decisions, unwanted meaningless desires. Very easy. So the Anartha Nivritti process becomes extremely long for devotees because they have not figured out how to execute Karma Yoga. This essentially means that devotees take several lifetimes. It is the clearing stage. Why do we struggle to chant? Why do we have to struggle to wake up in the morning? Simple. So there is anartha. These are anarthas. Our prioritization in life has not happened. It has not happened to the extent to which it is need to be done. If prioritization happens properly, everything else will fall in place. Our priorities are not aligned with Krishna. Krishna is in the center, but our priorities are not aligned. So this is the challenge of devotees that they face. So not only in the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Rupa Goswami has spoken about it in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It is also being addressed in different aspects in Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. All of this is being taken into account. So a mixture. So the third chapter primarily deals with understanding how to keep Krishna in the center. That's what this is all about. Krishna is in the center in the fourth chapter, transcendental knowledge. Fifth chapter, action in Krishna consciousness. Krishna is very much in the center. We are acting for Krishna's pleasure. But in the third chapter, we are acting based on certain vehicles. We are still conditioned. We are in the platform of not being pure or on the way to becoming pure, and that becomes very challenging. Okay, let's take on a few verses and see where we go with this. So the first verse, Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani gore mam niyojyasi keshava. Arjuna said, O Janardana, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? If you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work, Mata buddhir janardana, he is saying, Mata buddhir janardana tatkim karmani gore. Why are you making me engage in this ghastly warfare? So now Arjuna is posing a very important question here. What is so wonderful about this question? So what is he doing here? What is Arjuna doing? He is asking a question, and what is he saying? He is basically saying, why should I act? So there's a tendency that if we say that if you act, you will get karmic reactions. If you act, you will beget sinful reactions. If you act, your consciousness will go down because it becomes body consciousness. So Arjuna's question is, why should I act? Why should I engage in this ghastly warfare, Krishna? Why should I engage in this ghastly warfare? Why do you want me to engage in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence, buddhi yoga, is better than karma yoga? Why should I act on this? This is Arjuna's question. Because there is a tendency to think that the action itself is problematic. Is there a focus here on the action, or is there a focus on the consciousness? What is this society called? What is our society called? International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So we are completely focused on consciousness. We are not focused on the specific action. We are not concerned about the action itself. We are concerned about whether the consciousness has Krishna in the center or it does not. Is that clear? We are not concerned about making millions. We are not concerned about being paupers. We are not concerned about being low in the corporate ladder, or we are not concerned about moving higher in the corporate ladder. We are concerned about whether Krishna is in the center. What is the consciousness while doing all of this? So Arjuna's question is very clear. He says, why should I engage in warfare? And what is the nature of ghastly warfare? He is calling Krishna what? He is calling him Janardana. Jan Aradhana, right? Janaradhana. What is the meaning of Janardhan? One who is worshipped by entire mankind, right? All the living entities. So he is asking him, why are you, who is worshipped by all living entities, who is supposed to be a well-wisher of all living entities, wanting me to engage in this act where I would be killing so many? So he is asking him very nicely, Janardana, why do you want me to engage in this ghastly warfare? So Arjun is now focused on the activity. He is not focused on consciousness. He is still focused on the activity. So we have a focus on activity. Something is pleasant, we take it up. Something is not pleasant to this body, we give it up. Something feels good to the heart, we do it. Good to the mind, we do it. Something does not feel good to the mind, we don't do it. Well, he speaks of Buddhi Yoga in the second chapter. Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, where intelligence is going to get guided by Krishna himself, okay, and that is exactly what he says is Samadhi. So he says, Krishna says very clearly that what is Samadhi, he defines it in 2.55. He says that one who does not engage in mental concoction to satisfy the senses, such a person is said to be in Samadhi. So satisfying the senses, acting on the bodily platform. So Arjun's question is, why are you making me act on this platform of action if indeed one should not act? One can be maintaining themselves without acting. Why do you want me to act? So he is basically focusing on the nature of the activity. I am going to murder someone. It is not good. But if murdering someone is what Krishna wants and he is in the center of your life 100%, then we are not concerned about the activity. We are concerned about consciousness. We are concerned about keeping Krishna in the center. Imagine the task that Krishna gave Arjun. Imagine, just imagine. The task that he gave Arjun was, you should kill your relatives for me. This is what it is. You should kill your relatives for me for upholding dharma. What is he asking us to do? What is Krishna asking us to do? Krishna is only asking us to wake up and chant. Is he asking us to kill our uncles and guru and all that? He's not doing any of that. Our challenges are minuscule. Our challenges are almost negligible compared to what Arjun was given. Arjun's orders were, keep me in the center, Arjun, and the orders are, follow dharma, and your dharma of Kshatriya dharma, unfortunately, is kill Bhishma Dev, your dearest grandfather. Keep me in the center. Can you imagine how intense that situation must be that he had to follow those orders? But that is the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita, is it takes him from the position of being able to keep Krishna in the center in such complexity. It is giving us courage to think that even in our own complexities we would be able to have Krishna in the center. And what are our complexities? Our complexities are created by us. Arjun was asked to kill Bhishma. Those complexities were created and Arjun was put in a situation of duty. For us, our complexities are created by us. We are the creators. And we have to keep Krishna in the center. Now, do we understand the first verse? I'm going to be relating the topic of keeping Krishna in the center and acting throughout this chapter. So you got to get used to it, where you also have to think the way I'm thinking, where each and every verse you will have to be able to understand how Krishna to be kept in the center is the message. That is the message of the third chapter. How do you keep Krishna in the center? How can you keep Krishna in the center while you go to work? How can you keep Krishna in the center while you are at home? While you are acting as a homemaker? How do you keep Krishna in the center? How do you keep Krishna in the center as a student? Right? Different levels. So that's a specific challenge. Okay? So I'm going to stop here today. I'm going to stop with the first verse. right? And I'm going to take on verses in groups from the subsequent week. So let's see if you have any questions. You mean their faith, is it a subject, is it something which has been cultivated over this lifetime, or is it something? Actually, there's a lot of, Krishna consciousness acts on a continuum. The soul is passing on a continuum. If you take it as a scale, right? This is a continuum here. And the soul is passing from one lifetime to the other, one lifetime to the other, one lifetime to the other. Right? And in each lifetime there are a certain set of experiences, there are a certain set of samskaras in the heart, and the soul is making progress steadily. So if you ask me, our experience today and our faith today and the degree of focus in Krishna consciousness is a sum total of an aggregate of all our experiences from the past. It can be in this lifetime, it can be over several lifetimes. It can be both. So your question is probably that if this has been accomplished in this lifetime, why can't everybody accomplish that? Is that what your question is? It can happen both ways. That's what I'm trying to tell you. What I'm trying to tell you is that it need not be. See, there are a certain set of experiences which one has to go through for it to start. It is also very, very 100% karmic in the sense that there are a certain set of experiences one has to go through, and then he comes in touch with his guru, he comes in touch with the sadhus, Krishna consciousness is given, he picks it up seriously, and then starts running. Okay, there is a certain age when all of this happens, it has to occur. It is also very karmic. It is karmic in the sense that we are born with a certain kind of prarabdha karma. And the prarabdha karma is such that we have to execute it, and there would be some desires for us to fulfill. There would be certain aspirations. Once they all happen, then the soul is able to move forward and then reach a point where they are ready to accept the message. And at that time, Krishna again makes arrangements for them to come in touch with devotees. The definition given in the Shastras is that you always take away or move on from wherever you stopped in the previous lifetime. There is absolutely no loss or diminution in Krishna consciousness. If someone reached, in a scale of 1 to 10, they reached a point of 6 in the previous lifetime, in the next lifetime they would start from 6. So the starting from 6, is it going to happen at the age of 2? Is it going to happen at the age of 40? That's something which is karmic, because that is going to be strategically arranged for the best experience to happen. Do you understand? That is going to be strategically arranged so that the best thing can happen. It is going to be arranged in such a way that you will have to go through a few experiences, you will have to be exposed to a certain aspects of your life. We have our own desires which supersede that particular seed of devotion which has already been sown. Those desires have to fructify so that we develop some amount of apathy and we can move on. So there are many aspects to this. It is not something which is straightforward. It has to happen the same way for everyone. Well, this has been arranged. See, here's what it is. Bharat Maharaja in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first lifetime, what did he do? He completely gave up his kingdom, and at the peak of his reign, he had conquered many kingdoms, he was the emperor of the world, literally. He comes back and then he gives up his entire kingdom and he wants to retire to the forest. And he retires to the forest and he is starting sadhana and he is engaging in wonderful activities of sadhana bhakti. And at that time he gets distracted by a deer. Do you see how it is? So you are getting distracted by a deer. Now the Shastra says that his distraction from a deer was not because of his lack of focus on that particular janma alone. The distraction from a deer was because of weakness that he had in him from the previous birth, where he had offended a Vaishnava, and that particular offense did not allow him to complete his sadhana in the subsequent birth. He had to take on, become attracted to a deer, take on the body of a deer, and so on, even though he was quite advanced. So what does this tell you? It tells us that who we are today is an aggregate of past experiences, and we approach Krishna consciousness also based on those past experiences. Right? Some of us enter into Krishna consciousness and then we proceed like a rocket ship. Some of us enter into Krishna consciousness and then it's lateral. It just keeps going on the same plane. And sometimes it dips. In some cases, they come in touch with Krishna consciousness, they come to one class, they may have prasadam just once, they may just engage in some little service. Afterwards, you never see them for the entire lifetime. They're gone. Right? So in many cases, you have people coming in, taking it up Krishna consciousness and doing some kind of seva. They are actually acting based on the previous sukriti that they have gained, the previous adhikar that they have gained, and then you also have other factors. So there are several factors that are endured in this. Number one, it is our karma. Number two, it's the environment. Yes, karma. Everything can be nullified because Srila Rupa Goswami is very clear. He says laulyam, which is greed, is paramount in being able to give us the highest Krishna consciousness. If you have the highest greed, then that is the amount of Krishna consciousness that you're going to get, laulyam. So yes, desire and karma, both. One could be situated karmically in the body of, let us say, a Muslim, or a Christian, or a Jew. For instance, it could be a body which is born in Europe. It could be a body born in some part of the Middle East. So in one sense, you can say karma itself is not focused on Krishna consciousness or to provide the environment which is required for them to cultivate Krishna consciousness in that birth. But the desire to know the Lord is so strong that they find and come in touch with devotees and they take up Krishna consciousness even despite all those odds. So there is some kind of previous connection which allows them to take it up in this lifetime. I've told you this before. There was this devotee I met in New York who tried many different paths. Nothing worked out. And finally, one day, as he was walking on Madison Avenue, he saw Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra going on in New York. And somehow or the other he was drawn, and some devotee pulled him and said, "You pull the cart." The moment he pulled the cart, he felt as if deities were pulling him. And he became a devotee. So now just one instance, no introduction, nothing. So what do you call this? This is circumstance where he had to search through different experiences. He had to go through different paths. He had to get frustrated in those different paths because he didn't find what he was looking for. But he had performed some devotional service in the past. So the moment he saw the cart, he had the sukriti for him to be able to come forward and participate in that process. And that particular process allowed him to connect to his original consciousness, and he is able to take up Krishna consciousness. He was chanting 8 rounds in 6 months. A Western man, for a Western gentleman, to just pick up something, come and participate in the Rath Yatra and then become a devotee. In some cases, it is very spontaneous. I've heard devotees, in my spiritual master's case, he saw Srila Prabhupada's picture and he heard Srila Prabhupada's voice and he knew that this is my guru, finished. So it's very spontaneous and the action, whatever happens, is very fast. And within no time, he surrendered completely. He sold his house, sold his car, donated everything and became full-time. Straight, like a rocket, finished. So it differs. to answer your question. Not necessary to say that yes, you can say that if someone was completely immersed in Krishna consciousness from day one, from their birth, wonderful. But coming into Krishna consciousness at the age of 35, 40, or even 50 or 60, absolutely nothing wrong with it. We can still make it. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, because there is some previous connection and you're able to pick it up. Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. There's no loss. You will pick up wherever you left off. You can say that. Yes, it does mean that they don't have any connections in the past. How does a connection happen? That's the beauty. The connection happens exactly as I described. Someone could be there, right time, right place, right circumstances. Rath Yatra happens, and here's a policeman. Instead of being antagonistic towards the procession of Lord Jagannath, the policeman says, I'm going to help. He becomes favorable. He accepts prasad. He takes it. Finished. Devotional service starts from that point on. He has developed Sukriti. And that Sukriti would bring him in touch with devotees again. And he would be able to take it on. This is the teaching of the Acharyas. I remember this particular situation where Srila Prabhupada, while traveling sometimes on the flight, devotees did not have enough time to cook prasad for Prabhupada on the flight. So in the long flight, sometimes Prabhupada, they used to want to feed Prabhupada, and they used to ask for fruits from the air hostess. Some cases, some air hostesses, they used to refuse. There's no fruit. Some of them, recognizing Srila Prabhupada's divinity, their heart used to recognize his divinity. They did not know who he was, but they used to be attracted to his divinity. They used to go, and then they used to go to the first class, cabin, take out all the fruits, wash them, cut them up, bring a whole platter, and then offer it. So now this is Sukriti, because that woman, not even understanding that this is a pure devotee of the Lord, he is a representative of Lord Chaitanya, she comes there and serves him, right? That particular service allows her and gives her the qualification where Bhakti Devi might bless her. So in the subsequent birth, she gets Sukriti. She is able to take it up. Just like Narada Muni. Very good. Very good example from the Shastras is in Srimad Bhagavatam. You have Narad Muni, who is with his mother, who is a maidservant. And she is a maidservant in an ashram. So during the Chaturmas, he is her son, very poor personality. He serves all the sages who come and stay in the ashram during Chaturmas. And he serves them in different ways, takes association from them, and he honors the remnants which they have left. And that gives him immense ability to make progress to such an extent that in that lifetime, because of his desire, his purification, because of coming in touch with sadhus, Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha, it's so powerful that that particular idea, that particular aspect, when you say Ado Shraddha, where does the Shraddha start from? The Shraddha starts from the heart of a sadhu. There is 100% Shraddha. There is 100% experiences of Lord Krishna. So he picks up the Shraddha and then puts it into our heart. That's how Ado Shraddha starts. So Narad Muni in that lifetime itself wanted to take on devotional service. He goes, he receives the mantra, he sits under a tree and he starts meditating on the Lord as taught by the Bhakti Vedantas, those particular sadhus. And he has a vision of the Lord. And in the vision of the Lord says that you will not see me again in this lifetime. Continue your sadhana. So continuing his sadhana, his mother passes away. He is only 12. He walks around and finally reaches, and he reaches a tree, continues his sadhana as a young boy, and he leaves his body. After leaving his body, he is transformed to Narad Muni. So this is the great benefit of association. This is how Sukriti starts, where we engage in service, right? Sometimes it's called Agyata Sukriti, like in the case of the air hostess. Agyata, she had absolutely no knowledge. She was serving a pure devotee. But her heart was in the goodness. So she was wanting to serve. So she goes, takes some trouble, brings in some fruits, and then Prabhupada basically accepts it. Finished. Devotional service starts right at that time. So there are different ways in which devotional service can begin. But the best way and the easiest way and the beauty is coming in touch with devotees, 100% guaranteed devotional service will begin. Because you come in touch with devotees, it happens automatically. Yeah, is there a question? Yes. So how do you reconcile these two statements, right? That's your question. Good question. Fundamentally, her question is, we say we have free will, but not even a blade of grass moves without Krishna's desire. So how do you make these statements tally? The fact is that even though we have free will, if Krishna desires, he can prevent us from doing things. So that is why we say that not even a blade of grass moves without his will, which is the truth. If he wants, he can do anything. But he has given us freedom. He does not interfere. So that is how we can have free will, and him being able to control everything is also true. Both statements agree. Yeah. See, bringing Krishna into a situation is always favorable. It is always favorable. But we will have to examine every situation in understanding whether Krishna will want to get involved or not get involved. We can engage in something sinful and say, oh, Krishna wants me to do it. Yes, this is Krishna's plan. This is his plan. He has made arrangements. Why shouldn't, this is his plan. I am surrendered. Okay, I am surrendered. Krishna has made arrangements. I'm going to engage in it. That's one way of looking at it, which is dangerous. So the best way to look at any situation like this is, look at the circumstances and the arrangements. Is this arrangement going to increase our ability to read and live the Shastra? Is this arrangement going to help us chant better? Is this arrangement going to help us associate better? Is this arrangement going to allow us to serve better? When you try answering these fundamental 4 questions, which are the pillars of us being able to perform devotional service, you will be very clear as to whether it is Krishna's arrangement or our arrangement. Very clear. Okay, so her question is, I'm just trying to repeat it so the audience can hear. Her question is, in a few lectures back, we were talking about maintaining certain patterns, daily patterns during a sadhana. We were talking about the fact that it is extremely important for us to sit at the same place every day for japa. It is extremely important to do activities before the japa, which are following 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, before we sit for japa. So if you have a habit of just washing your feet, washing your mouth, and then sitting for japa, so be it. Do it every day. If you have a habit of having a bath and then sitting in one place before doing your japa, you should do it. The question is, why is this important? Because by doing so, you are imprinting samskaras, impressions in your chitta, in your consciousness. You're telling the mind that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You're telling the mind 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I start doing any of this, the next step is I'm going to chant japa. The mind will not disturb you. Every day, if you keep changing the place of sitting, if you keep changing the place here and there, then the mind has to adjust itself to a new pattern. You see, mind can be trained, the body can be trained. We can bring in certain patterns. Once it recognizes that pattern, the mind will let go. It is just like, for example, those who go to office, right? You get up at a certain time every day, you go have a bath at a certain time, You know exactly when you have to leave home for you to reach your workplace. Because you have a train to catch, you may have to drive, whatsoever. The mind, after some time, does not disturb you in your being able to accomplish that. Because a pattern has been set, it allows you to follow that pattern because you have set a pattern. Initially, it was a disturbance. Initially, you had to adjust, you had to make some arrangements. Later on, it is moving as a pattern. In a similar fashion, even for spiritual sadhana, what we need to do is we need to set patterns. Once you set up a pattern, the mind will recognize the pattern. It will stop troubling you when the time comes. But if you keep changing your place, you're going to chant one day in the bedroom, one day in the kitchen, one day in front of the deity, one day somewhere else, then the mind constantly is going to make adjustments to it. It will keep distracted. It will keep asking you questions. Why are you here? Why don't you go there? Why this place is better? My leg is paining. My back is paining. This place is not comfortable. So many questions. The mind will raise those questions. Maybe we are not hearing the mind carefully. Right, Mataji? The mind does say things. Okay? If you are able to do it, there is absolutely no problem. But most people struggle. Most people struggle if you don't maintain patterns. You will find it difficult to control your mind. So pattern establishment is very important. For you to establish a certain pattern, it is said that if you establish a habit for 21 days, you will be all right. Okay? So people, you will have to understand that the chitta basically responds in such a way that if you establish a pattern, it will act in that. It is being pre-programmed. If you try it, there are devotees who wake up at 2:30 in the morning in Vrindavan, anywhere in the sun, and they wake up out of the bed, immediately they will go do some basic ablutions, clean themselves, come sit and start japa without wasting their time. So it's a very set pattern, the mind does not disturb. But then suppose you go to a new place, and then you have to sit and chant there. There would be some distraction. There's a tree there, there's a place here. So in a similar fashion, doing it at home also, if you set up a spot, the moment you sit there, the mind gets a message, oh, they have come here to chant. This person has come here to chant. The mind stops bothering you because the mind agrees to it, the mind is used to it to some extent. This is a part of trying to create impressions in the mind. Yeah. Well, if people have not had pratyaksha, if people have not had experiences, then how does Shastra get written? Shastra is written based on experiences. How does Shastra get written? Shastra is based on experiences. Okay? So you don't need more proof than that. You were just curious. I understand. I gave you the answer. If Shastra is written, it means someone has had experience and they are writing. Yeah, tell me. See, that is the objective, that is the struggle, that is the purification which has to be done. How do you bring Krishna in the center even though there are so many distractions and complications? That is exactly the pattern. When there are no complications and when there are no struggles, if we learn to keep Krishna in the center, we would also have the same ability to do so when complications arise. If when there are no complications, Krishna is not in the center, it's very difficult to bring Krishna in the center when there are complications. Do you understand? So you establish patterns much ahead of the time. That's number one. Number two, we also have to understand that involving Krishna is required. Our circumstances, our problems are purely due to our karma. But if we involve Krishna in them, automatically they get purified and we get realizations. The idea is that you can do what your wife was just saying, right? She was talking about, we might think, oh, this is Krishna's arrangement, right? So the best way is that when we have challenging circumstances, we can start thinking that this is precisely Krishna's arrangement to bring us close to Him. This is specifically what I need for me to come closer to Him. And He has made those arrangements. And we become grateful. When we do that, automatically Krishna comes into our life. And even though it is only our karma, He will use those circumstances to bring us closer to Him.
Even though we think that, then how do we make sure that we don't get to the relation?
If you start thinking like that, you start thinking like that, you start thinking like that, it will happen. Contemplation, it would happen. You have to start thinking. The thinking process is what leads to words. Words lead to actions. So we have to start thinking. We have to understand at any given time, no matter how complex the circumstances are, these are ordained by Krishna. These, dear Lord, are due to my karma. You have been very kind to me. You have somehow been so kind to me that despite the fact that I deserve even worse, you are mitigating all of those, you are protecting me. I only desire that you bring me close to yourself. So we start looking at it from that angle, saying these circumstances, Krishna, are arranged by you to bring you closer to me, then automatically it will become so, because Krishna is involved. It will become so. Have faith in that.
Even though circumstances are not in your favor,
Doesn't matter. He would use those to bring you closer to Him. That need not be a pleasant experience to the body or to the mind, but you will come closer to Krishna.
because sometimes it happens like you think, this is wrong, still you have to build a habit to say that.
That is it. You build a habit and understand very clearly that this is being arranged by the Lord, this is being arranged by Him, just as He has made every other arrangement in my life. He is making this arrangement also. He is bringing me closer to Him. So this gratitude will indeed happen in such a way that you will come closer to Him. Because now you are expressing a desire. You are saying that you want to come closer to Him. So Krishna's servants will use those circumstances to bring you closer to Him. So unfavorable circumstances, the only thing that you can do in this life with unfavorable circumstances is suffer. But if you involve Krishna in those unfavorable circumstances, those unfavorable circumstances will be used by Krishna's servants to bring us closer. That's the great advantage of being Krishna conscious. I mean, being a part of the process of Krishna consciousness.
Does it mean like we stop putting effort?
No. No. We do whatever is necessary as if it depends on us, but fully understanding that Krishna is in charge, and if He desires, anything can happen. I might want 100 things to happen, but if Krishna doesn't want it, it will not happen. So we do everything as if it depends on us. So this is not about, that's the first question which Arjuna asked, right? Why do you want me to act? Should I act? Krishna says, no, you act. You leave the results to me. What are the results? Results are fame. Results are kingdom. Results are good name, bad name. Results are people telling you you are a good person. People telling you you are a bad person. These are all results. Having money, having wealth. You leave the results to me. You act. Right?
How one comes to know that your action is right or wrong?
Again, going back to the circumstances which I just spoke to Mataji, right? You'll have to check to see, a random check. These actions that I am doing, will it bring me closer to you? Will it be able to bring me closer to you, Krishna? In some cases, it will be clear as to whether it can bring you closer, not bring you closer. In some cases, it will not be clear. In those circumstances, you surrender. Or you seek the help of someone who you have faith in, who is senior to you. Someone who can think for you, fundamentally. And take their decisions as Krishna's decisions. Both are important. Not just advice. Big difference, taking advice and acting on the guidance. You have a question?
Prabhu, we went to Rio for the
How can Allah come in His own creation? How can Allah come in His own creation? Why not? Yeah, this is, see, 99.9% of the world follows impersonalism, Advaitavad, where even Krishna's lotus body is Maya, and that includes Islam. Even Islam is impersonal, Christianity is impersonal. There's very, very few personalists in this world who can see and agree to a personal form of the Lord, because that requires a tremendous amount of progress. So in such circumstances, what they do is that they are not able to accept the Lord's body as transcendental. Right? But imagine that if Krishna's creation is such that he cannot appear in it, right? Then why, wouldn't that creation be even more powerful than he is? That he cannot appear into it?
Trying to say that how would Lord, you guys talk about judgment day and all that, how would God know everything is done? That means he is part of it. How can he see his own?
He can appear, he can be in it. There were some circumstances, for example, there are some people who question, Narasimhadev, how did he appear from a pillar? How can someone that size fit into a pillar? You cannot fit into a pillar. Does it mean God cannot? What is the difference between you and God? If you're going to place constraints of matter on God, what is the difference? See, there are different degrees of faith. And based on different degrees of faith, there are different degrees of surrender, different experiences. Krishna reveals himself to that extent. So based on the faith of the living entity, Krishna has revealed himself as Allah, and Allah is impersonal, he is void. Krishna's Brahman form is being worshipped by the Muslims. In fact, they worship Lord Shiva. That's who they worship. Which one? Yeah, even Shankaracharya said that, right? He doesn't have a form. But that's why I'm saying there are very few personalists in this world. Very few personalists. It's exclusive, in fact. It's exclusive. How many of us believe in this room that Radha Vrindavan Chandra are right there looking at you? How many of you act as if you're sitting in front of the divine couple? How many of us serve them undoubtedly, understanding that there's no difference between the Archamurti of the Lord and the divine couple? This is different degrees of faith, but then I'm just trying to tell you that even after entering devotional service, even after receiving so many instructions, we have a problem understanding that they are non-different. But someone who has reached the summit of Krishna consciousness can see the divine couple right there, can communicate with them. So different degrees of faith, personalism increases. Someone who is a neophyte is still impersonal because they think this is brass, this is wood, right? Some people think that, Jagannath's face is quite funny. It's not ecstatic. They cannot see his expressions of beauty. Correct? Some people are not able to understand the expressions of the beauty of Lord Jagannath. Very unusual. He's unusually beauty. His beauty is quite unusual. That attraction does not come quite easily for many. So there are different degrees of impersonalism. Okay? Even those who are on the path of personalism can get distracted because of their anarthas, and they do not fully accept the personal form of the Lord. Right. That's the difference. So is there anything else from anyone? Srila Prabhupada ki. You want to take care of this. Can you talk to them and find out?